Hey folks, Jerry here this afternoon. How you doing? And as promised, we are going to go on ahead and begin our journey into the book of Daniel, my friends. Now, I'm going to take my time with this. I'm not going to get in a big, huge rush with it or anything, folks. We're going to do what we can do, and that's it. I mean, I work a lot of hours these days, and I just kind of see it rough, guys, to even survive. Let's put it that way. But, I do whatever that I have to do, and God has blessed me, folks, very much so here in these last several weeks. He's blessed me with a job, and I've had a truck that has come into my countenance here, and it's been wonderful. And so I can't complain, especially here lately. And so we're going to get started. And as I go along with this, you guys follow along, and we'll talk and discuss some of this, and we'll go from there. Okay. Now we're going to begin the very first of Daniel. We're going to go through the whole book. And I'm going to tell you what I think. You guys know as well as I do, I don't follow anybody's teachings. I follow what my heart tells me about what the Lord says. And that's it. So I invite you to take this journey with me as we venture into the book of Daniel. One of the most beloved books that there is in the Bible. And definitely one of the most beloved books, or if not the most beloved book in the Old Testament. So here we go, folks. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God, and brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, and he should bring certain of the children of Israel. Now these eunuchs, folks, back in the Babylonian days were castrated priests, okay? That's what they were. It was, oh my goodness. As bad as I hate to say it, folks, that's what your Statue of Liberty is, okay? I'm telling you the truth, guys. Listen, going into the book of Daniel is going to be an adventure with me, brother, okay? Because I'm not going to sit here and lie to you about none of this stuff. All right? And it is what it is. Okay, and the king spake unto the Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, and he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children of whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning and knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had an ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning of the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belshazzar, and Hananiah, and Shadrach, and Mishael, and Meshach, and Azariah of Abednego. But Daniel proposed in his heart that he should not defile himself with a portion of the king's meats, nor with the wine which he drank thereof. He requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now let me touch on some things here, folks, before we go any further with this. First of all, this goes to show you the house of Judah. There was two separate kingdoms back in those days, folks, when this got besieged. There was Israel and then there was Judah. It was actually two different. There wasn't one solid country there like many people think that it is today, or you've been led to think astray. You've got Judah, and then you had Israel. It was separated back in those days. And the royal Pharaonic house of King David of Judah was what that they were making reference to here. And the learned children was actually part of the aristocracy of Judah, the Pharaonic house of King David. So basically what this means is, folks, this means that Daniel was of the same line of kings of King David as Jesus Christ. You might even be able to go as far as to say that it's the Merovingian king bloodline. It's all up to you. I mean, that's what it would have been after Jesus Christ, but beforehand it's all the blood lineage of Judah and the Pharaonic house of King David, and that's the same bloodline Daniel has come from, okay? Same bloodline of the Egyptian pharaohs that Paul came from, because Paul was a Pharisee too. It's the truth, folks. Now God brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed you meat and you drink. For why should he see your faces worsen, liker than the children of which are of the sword? Then shall ye make me endangered my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, the prince of the eunuchs, had said over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azazrael, Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Now, a lot of people don't understand what that pulse is, but basically what he was requesting, guys, he was requesting that the prince of the eunuchs give him this pulse, because pulse is in Greek is zunar, and it's anything that is grown from a seed. In other words, it would be like a vegetarian line of food that a vegetarian would eat. And so he didn't want to defile himself any with the fatty meats and stuff that the king Nebuchadnezzar had set aside for them, and that was what he had requested the eunuchs, okay? All right. Then let our countenance be looked upon thee, and the countenance of the children, that eat of the portion of the king's meats, and thou seest the deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this manner, and proved them 10 days. So it went 10 days that he approved this pulse, or anything that would be of a seed, the zunar in Greek, to Daniel, and they wanted to take a look at the health of him and his fellow followers after those 10 days were up. And at the end of the 10 days, the countenance appeared fairer and fattier in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meats. So that actually panned out good for Daniel, folks. Okay? Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse, which is a vegetarian line of food. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them. And all was found none like Daniel. Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, therefore stood they before the king, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians, the astrologers that were in all the realm. And Daniel continued even to the first year of King Cyrus. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewithin his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake with him. And the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to shew the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king of Shirach, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we shall shew the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, This thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known me the dream with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. Oh, my Lord. In other words, he was going to do them in, folks, if they didn't tell him what his dream was from scrap, okay? But if ye shew the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honors. Therefore shew me to the dream and the interpretation thereof. They answered again and said, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will shew the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that ye would gain the time, because the thing is gone, because ye see the thing is gone from me. Okay. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you, for ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can shew me from the interpretation of it. Shew me. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asked such a thing of a magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not within flesh. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. Now, folks, undoubtedly Nebuchadnezzar was just... undoubtedly he was a tyrant from hell, okay? Because the eunuchs, they were terrified of him. They didn't even want to bring any matters before him. Now, here all the sorcerers and the Chaldeans, they're fearing for their head. So off with his head quite a bit was the order of the day with Nebuchadnezzar. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with the counsel of the wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guards, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king captain, Why is the decree so hasty from the king? When Arioch made this thing known to Daniel, then Daniel went and desired to the king that he would give him time, and that he could shew the king of the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and his companions, that they would desire mercy of the God of heaven concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. And Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the man of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the time and the seasons. He removed kings and setteth up kings, begiveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and in the light dwelleth within him. Right at that point in time, folks, Daniel is giving total praise to the Lord for all wisdom and knowledge that he has gave him. Giving God the credit and giving him all of the credit for the wisdom that he's got. He's given the Lord all of it there, folks. And that's what you do. You do what Daniel's doing right there. When God gives you wisdom and knowledge and all learnings and understandings, you give the Lord credit for it. All of the credit. And so Daniel was very, very wise to do such a thing. He revealeth the deep and dark secrets. He knoweth is in the darkness, and in the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me now what we desired of thee. For thou hast made known unto the king's matter. Therefore Daniel went into Iraq, whom the king has ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will shew unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah, that will make known unto the interpretation, O king. And the king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king, and said, The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers shew unto the king. But there is a God in heaven which revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As of thee, O king, thy thoughts came into my mind upon thy bed, that should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what should come to pass. But as for me, this secret not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest the great image. The image whose brightest was excellent stood before thee, and form thereof was terrible. Now, folks, right there is where I'm going to end this first lesson. Okay? Part 2, we're going to go into what Daniel saw in the visions of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And at that point in time, I will get together what my interpretations of this stuff is, and I will make it known to you folks what that mine was with it as well. Okay? So that will be what we will do. And so we have ended this after the first 31 verses of chapter 1. So it's verse 1 through 31 of chapter 1. And I'm going to try to make this like a 20-minute interval for each one of them that we do, and we'll see how that goes, okay? And we're going to take it bit by bit until we break down the book of Daniel. So this is part 1 of Daniel.